A little bit behind here, kids.
It's a special night and we're acting special.
I'm special and you're special.
Will you be my friend?
I, I will. I'll be your friend.
Oh, so a little bit is going on behind the curtain here, folks. So bear with us as we get our ducks in a row. And we are in a public space here. Actually, as we progress along in my behinds, I've got a scene in the park again, so they let me out in public. Can you imagine?
Did you say in your behinds? What did you say? I don't know. I want to think about it.
Let's see. So, can you hear us on the stream? I'm asking this in the chat room, and if you can, just let us know. So we've got just us chickens, and then we got our dear friend Tommy from the Great White North. Got the Duchess Moran out there from the little west of Midwest, and then of course hubby Billy and Aunt Tudor. So we shall see how things go. I'm still waiting for a reply on if they can hear us in the chat room. Doopy doopy doo.
Shooby dooby doo. Shooby dooby doo. Oh, all right. Let's see now. I've got a new picture. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Splendidly.
I got a new picture. I'm gonna get rid of that one. And I'm gonna put in this one.
He's in witless protection, folks.
What are you
witless
talking about me?
Protection. They can hear me, they say.
Oh, okay.
So we're on the tubes and all that good stuff.
Look at that. It's another horrible picture. What the hell? This has never happened before.
That's quite that's understandable. I mean, only the shadow knows.
All right, I'm just gonna have to leave it, DJ, because we gotta get going. So
that's understandable. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to serenade us with an intro. Let me make sure my levels are not going to blow anyone out here. Okay, so
they blow.
Good evening and welcome to the beautiful historic Marionette Theater. Tonight we're going to be discussing a mid-60s drama romance based upon a novel, and we broke some barriers and we brought up some relevant topics, and now we're going to revisit that conversation. So please take your seats. The show is about to begin. Well, hello, Mr. Shelley. Good evening. How are you?
So well, here we are at the Marionette Theater in the balcony, waiting to screen this movie. And well, that's a nice spring night.
It is. We made it through another week, and I think Mother Nature. Normally she just wakes up a little slowly and gradually. I think somebody gave her a shot of espresso in her IV because she woke up with a vengeance this year.
Yeah, I have no doubt we're gonna have more snowstorms to come. I mean, it's way too early to not have those. But anyways, it's certainly been a nice treat, and I hear that our own Gertie was up there on the roof of the theater sunbathing today. That's how warm it was.
Well, I was going to say one thing I'm grateful for with it being warmer weather is that the bus is running again here in Spuds Flats. Now, I know what you're thinking. Spuds Flats is not big enough to have a bus, and you're technically right. It's actually Gertie's nephew. He rehabilitated a retired ice cream truck and he painted it to look like a bus. So when you hear Pop Goes the Weasel, That's actually the town bus coming by to pick up 30.
Hey, listen, wise guys, I'm not sure how much I appreciate that. I just want you to know I could have been in this movie tonight, A Patch of Blue. I'm telling you right now, I could have been cast in the Shelley Winners role. I don't know why that never happened, and I'm very disturbed about it. Anyways, I'll go downstairs and do the intro. Anyways.
Hey, and take your blonde
Okay.
wig with you, Miss Winters.
Well, okay, there you go. Well, you know what, DJ? She really would have been good in the role of Shelley Winners.
I mean, I had to duck a couple of times coming in because I was late. She was about to pop me one.
Seriously.
All right, folks. The lady of the house is on the stage, and we're ready.
I'm waiting.
Okay.
Oh, there she goes. Selena is a young woman whose blindness has left her a servant of her dysfunctional family. One fateful afternoon, she encounters a young man while sitting under a tree in the park. Gordon treats her with kindness and dignity, things she's not familiar with at home. Before long, they're spending more time together, and the milk of human kindness lures Selena from the toxic well. Can Gordon help her find her way toward a better life? Will Selena learn she deserves more? Grab a picnic basket and a trench coat. It might rain. It's time for A Patch of Blue with Sidney Poitier and Shelley Winners. Hit it, boys!
What do you get when you take a dash of the silver stream? A pinch of golden oldies and a smidgen of screaming. It's time for Matinee Minutia with your host DJ and Toppy.
Oh, yes, sirree. Spring is technically just a day or so away, and we've already...
Wait, wasn't today the first day of spring, or am I wrong? I don't know.
I think on the calendar it says it's the 20th, so I think it's like Sunday.
Could be.
I mean, it's a little confusing because, of course, we do that little weird thing where we change our clocks. And
Oh, that. Yeah. You know, I don't know. There's a lot of fuss about that, but I mean, I don't know about you, but it's just like it never bothers me. I don't know what all the fuss is about, but okay, whatever.
Yeah, it's only an issue if you work for a big company and you're all over the place. I once worked for a hotel company, and it's just like, what time is it locally there?
Oh, well, I guess that would matter. Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, wait a minute. What is Tammy Hash Brown's? Is that Shelley Winners back in the day? Woo.
Oh boy, in the chat
Look
room,
at her.
we got some pictures being shared, and Miss Shelley Winters is in her pinup girl stage.
Yeah. Woo.
Oh boy. So, if you're listening to the podcast version, we have a whole lot of fun here at the Marionette, and it's all done sort of virtually. You can join us on our chat room and Discord, and you can even see us on YouTube because I do funny things, and
He does, folks. And really, it's a lot of fun. Every first and third Friday of the month, like clockwork, we do this live. And DJ, if people wanted to join us live, how do they do it? What do they do? What do they got to do?
well, the easiest way, if you could spell it, is go to matineeminutia.com. There's actually a link in our show notes to go there. And, even if you misspell it, you'll find our show. Just spell matinee correctly. I don't expect you to know the whole alphabet there, but
well, then they got to spell minutia correctly. Oh God!
I mean, you get a gold star for effort if you but you land yourself on our page, and there's a link for YouTube if you want to see our videos, because not only are we live, but all of our library is online. It's like, revisiting your favorite reruns. But you can enter our chat room by clicking on the Discord logo, which looks kind of like a game controller or a face mask.
You're sitting there, right there.
Yeah, and then there's that little tower logo there, the Univaz Network, our family of shows, unique voices in podcasting. You can listen to our show when we're live, such as a night like tonight.
There you go. And speaking of the chat room, tonight with us is our friends, Aunt Tudor, your hubby, Billy Starsage, our good friend, Maren Gertz, and our buddy old pal, none other than Tommy Hash Browns. Thanks, y'all, for being here now live in our chat room. Well, here we go.
Okay, one sec here. I'm behind the times sometimes. So
yeah.
Alrighty. So where are we? Okay.
Let's play that doggone trailer.
All right.
Patch of Blue.
This came out in December of 65, folks. So think back to then. And this is a little preview of what was to come.
A patch of blue is destined to be talked about wherever motion pictures are discussed.
You're safe now. Don't cry.
A patch of blue introduces an exciting new star, Elizabeth Hartman, in the sensitive, glowing story of a blind girl's discovery of a world she has never before known.
I brought you a present. Take it. Put them on.
It's glasses.
Not quite. They're sunglasses. They're just as I thought.
What?
Now you're a very pretty girl.
Oh, you pulled my leg.
No, I mean it.
This is also the story of a young man who helps her, a refreshing characterization by Sidney Poitier, with all the warmth and humor of his Academy Award performance in Lilies of the Field.
It's ringing.
In contrast, shock drama stems from the violent emotional impact of the girl's home life, provoked by Shelley Winners as the wanton mother.
You stay out of this one, you stupid old drunk.
And Wallace Ford as the dissolute grandfather. A Patch of Blue is also a story of rare understanding.
You cannot go on living the way you are. It's a dark age story.
I don't know what else I can do.
Well, there must be some way.
A film with something to say, and it says it with humor, mounting excitement, gripping suspense, and unforgettable entertainment.
Well, DJ, if this movie had gripping suspense, I must have missed it. But anyways, it has, let's not say gripping suspense. It just had suspense, a little bit of suspense. There you go.
I mean, it was a little bit like a soap opera where you wondered how late did she get to stay out?
Oh my God. Well, anyways, DJ, let's see now. This movie was way back in 65. Jeepers creepers. That was a long time ago. Just kind of let us know what in the jeebus was going on in the world in 65.
Okay, let me get to that here one sec again here. Sorry, folks. Let me find that. Okay. Let me adjust that. Edit.
The podcast version won't hear any of this.
Exactly. None the wiser. Oh, the world and history of 1965. A lot of things happened then. First American combat troops arrived in Vietnam. 3,500 Marines. Oh, it was the beginning. 2 civil rights marches were held in Alabama between the towns of Selma and Montgomery. There were 525 demonstrators led by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And the Voting Rights Act of 1965 was signed into legislation by President Johnson. It was only the second civil rights law signed in since the Reconstruction, which was the years following the Civil War to rebuild the South. Now, this was considered one of the most far-reaching pieces of civil rights legislation in U.S. history at a time.
Okay, and folks, just know This was happening when this movie was released. So just know that.
Let's see here now. Among the other things occurring in 65, Hurricane Betsy. No, that's not your old friend from high school. It was a hurricane that hit the shores near New Orleans, Louisiana, and brought in winds of 145 miles an hour now. And that
Oh.
in 65, it cost 76 deaths. So, we were keeping track of things starting then. And it caused a 1.42 billion with a B in damage.
Yikes.
Now, this storm is the first hurricane to cause that much in unadjusted damages, giving it the nickname Billion Dollar Betsy.
Oh my God, I've never heard that. Okay.
And it's the last major hurricane to strike New Orleans until Hurricane Katrina 30 years later.
Oh, Lord, Katrina. Oh, Lord.
All righty. So the Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, that charity organization that President Carter still does work for. Well, they began operation in 65.
Whoa.
And all those years ago. And of course, he's in his 90s, but he can still hammer a nail. The New York's World's Fair at Flushing Meadows closes. And due to financial losses, some of the projected state or site park improvements failed to materialize. So they didn't rake in enough dough to pay for the venue.
Now, and we don't do that anymore, do we? Do we have a New York World's Fair anymore? I don't think so.
The World's Fair travels, so I think it's been in more international locations, but I can't tell you when the last one was held.
Okay.
Let's see now. Moving forward. Now here's a thing. St. Louis. Now, Miss Shelley Winners was from the great state of Missouri.
Oh, that's right.
And in St. Louis, her hometown, the 630-foot tall parabolic, big word, steel gateway arch is completed. So,
iconic.
That all those postcards from St. Louis, they didn't finish building it until 65. So rounding out 1965 in history, in 65, the Great Northeast Blackout. Several U.S. states included Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and New York. So a lot of New England and New Jersey and parts of Canada were hit by a series of blackouts lasting up to 13 and a half hours.
Lots of babies were conceived that weekend. Yeah. All right.
And so, Toppy, the more fun part of history.
Yes. The celebrity births, folks. 1965, Jesse Jackson Jr., believe it or not, African-American politician. Oh, old horse face. Oh, no, I shouldn't have said. Listen, I don't believe she's a horse face at all. I really don't. I don't know why people call her that. Sarah Jessica Parker.
Oh, Ferris Bueller's wife.
Yeah, actress in Hocus Pocus, Sex in the City. That's the current series going on right now. She was born in 65. Robert Downey Jr., actor, Iron Man in the Marvel Comics universe, blah, blah, blah. And Alec Mappa. Filipino American actor, comedian, writer. He's in that Ugly Betty, or they are in that Ugly Betty and Transamerica love story thingy that's going on right now. DJ, this is always a curiosity.
Yes, sir.
Patch of Blue comes out in December 10th, 1965. But what was going on in the theaters to compete with it?
All righty. So, as Toppy was saying, A Patch of Blue came out in 65, but it was the tail end of 65. It was basically the holidays, if you can imagine. And there's nothing about the holidays that this film covers, but we didn't always plan our movies to come out during the times of the year that you're watching it.
Yeah.
They weren't filming Christmas movies in June then, I guess. But some of the notable films that came out in 65 that might have provided a little competition for A Patch of Blue
a little bit
included the number one film,
Yeah.
which brought in $163 million.
The Hills of Night was a song.
It popularized wearing upholstery fabric. The Sound of Music with Julie Andrews and, of course, Mr. Christopher Plummer, based upon a true story. Let's see, number two. I haven't seen this, but I know that it was a best-selling novel for a long time.
DJ, I haven't seen it either.
Oh, well, that means one thing. We're meant to go down that dark alley one day. At 111.
No, he didn't say what it was.
I'm about to.
Dr.
At 111 million, number two in the box office in 65 was Dr. Zhivago.
No.
Starring Omar Sharif, Julie Christie, and then this is the sci-fi reference for tonight, Mr. Alec Guinness, who was, of course, Obi-Wan in the Star Wars universe.
Okay.
And
Right.
running.
Okay. There you go.
Now, bringing up the tail here, some of the other films that came out in 65 that might have been closer to a Patch of Blues realm, because it wasn't a smash success, might have paid for craft services, but Thunderball. This was the fourth movie with the 007 James Bond character starring Sean Connery, brought in 63 million.
Ooh.
Now, as I was saying, A Patch of Blue, it didn't really place in the top of the box office, but some of the other films that came out around that time of the year, in December, was a film that came out called The Spy Who Came In From the Rain. And this was a film with Richard Burton, and it was directed by the future director of that very well-known Sally Fields movie, Norma Ray.
Okay, DJ, I'm laughing because folks in the chat room are posting outrageous pictures of Shelley Winner, and they're making me laugh.
Well, I'll add to it. Here's one from the Poseidon Adventure. You don't see Shelley in it, but she's a very skinny lady in the water, I hear.
Yeah.
All righty. So let's see. Spy Who Came In From the Rain, probably placed somewhere near the story for Patch of Blue. And then one less than Spy Who Came In From the Rain was a film called The Train. And this starred Burt Lancaster. It brought in 6.8 million. And it was by the director of The Manchurian Candidate. And later in, I think it was the 90s, a very popular film with, I believe, Val Kilmer. Say that 3 times fast. The Island of Dr. Moreau.
Oddly enough, there's been many remakes of The Island of Dr. Moreau in the last 40 years. But yes, Val Kilmer, and an unknown actor by the name of what's his face? Oh Lordy, come on, the guy that starred in. Oh, never mind. Anyways, okay, let's move on because I'm having a brain fart. Let's go on to the director of this lovely movie we're talking about tonight, A Patch of Blue. This was a film adapted and directed by a guy named Guy Green, and he took it from a 1961 book that was entitled Be Ready with Bells and Drums by a writer by the name of Elizabeth Cotta. She was from Australia. The book later won a Writers Guild of America award. It got quite a bit of recognition. It was a popular novel, and the rights were scooped right up in no time at all. Guy Green is an English film director, producer, screenwriter, and cinematographer. And he's actually born with the name of Guy Mervyn Charles Green, which I just love. First of all, if your name is Guy, I love you. If you've got a name, Guy Mervyn, I love you even more. Anyways, he was born in 1913 in Frome, Somerset, England. And I love this. I love this guy's career because it was long. And he started at the very bottom as a clabbered boy in 1929. He's the guy that would stand in front of the camera with that wooden thing with the hinge on it, and he'd go, "Scene 25, clap." The clabbered guy. Yeah, that's how he started. And by the time of 1929, he was promoted to being a camera operator. There you go. Well, this eventually led to him becoming, because he learned on the job, folks, it led to him becoming a full-fledged cinematographer. How good was he? I'll tell you, in 1948, he won an Oscar as the cinematographer for the film Great Expectations. He got many awards. In 2002, he was given a Lifetime Achievement Award by the British Academy of Film and Television Arts. In 2004, he was named an officer of the Order of the British Empire for his lifetime contributions to British cinema. So back in 1955, Green switched from cinematography to directing. And he eventually, to promote his career, moved to Hollywood in 1962. And that's about a little bit later, he would direct A Patch of Blue. And Green also wrote and co-produced A Patch of Blue. So this was his baby. A Patch of Blue was Guy Green's baby. And as a matter of fact, after he passed away, his widow told news organizations that A Patch of Blue was her husband's proudest achievement. And that's what we're talking about right now, tonight. And Guy Green had over 58 films that he was featured in as either a writer or a cinematographer or director. 58 films in his lifetime.
Wow. All righty, sir. Well, we have a moment here before we take a brief break. But this was 65 this came out. So this was timed kind of perfectly for the civil rights movement that was, just around the corner. Now, of course, later on, we're going to talk about the fact that there was a different ending to the story that was in the book compared to the movie. And I'd like to say, I think that probably the ending in the book that we'll get to wouldn't have worked as well, considering the events that had happened in history when this film was released. So the book, of course, came out a few years, probably a number of years before, because back then, you didn't go right from the supermarket shelf to the silver screen. It's usually the reverse now. So
that's true. That's right.
A popular movie will get turned into a book because they never thought anyone would actually crack open a book and read it. Oh, Brady. Well, we are going to step on over here to the refreshment stand.
No.
And, I think in honor of tonight's show, we're going to have a little something with pineapple.
What? Why is that an honor? Oh, no. No, I do.
Actually, for a moment in the park, get me one of those drinks with the paper umbrella.
Oh, By the way, did you notice the packaging that pineapple juice came in? Wasn't that curious?
Oh, that was very period specific.
Yeah.
We don't have things like that nowadays.
No, that was an odd paper container.
And everything's plastic with foil, and it would have gotten crumpled up in the trash.
Anyways, Elizabeth Hartman made pineapple juice famous. Not really, but anyways. Okay, I'll shut up now.
Okay, so this is an interview with Mr. Sidney Poitier, the star of tonight's film. This is from 1985, so it is a number of years later. However, he's talking about the beginning of his career with the host of Good Morning America.
I arrived in New York, I had $3. Okay. I had no friends, no family, no relations, no addresses. I knew no one. I got off at the bus station of 50th Street and 8th Avenue. I'm walking up and down Broadway. I am transfixed by the lights and the traffic and the people. It's incredible, absolutely incredible. So I walked up and down Broadway from 42nd Street to 50th Street, back to 42nd, back to 50th, just marching up and down. In the meantime, I'm buying hot dogs and malted milks. In no time, I'm busted.
15 years old, surviving on your own on the street in New York. How did you survive?
Okay, in the window, there's a sign that says, relief dishwasher wanted. And I went down there and they put me to work. Not only did they put me to work, they were paying $4 a night, and I could eat for 3 meals. So when I finished the first night's work, I went to the bus station, got my little valise out, intending not to spend my $4 as I spent my $3. I went to sleep in the toilet. Used to be pay toilets and it cost a nickel. So I put a nickel in the thing, and I got in, I put down the seat, I sat there, put my feet up against the door, and I would sleep uncomfortably, needless to say.
Okay. Negro Theater Company. First job. How'd you get it? What'd you say? What'd you do? How'd you audition?
The black newspaper in Harlem. I would always go there when I needed to find a job as a dishwasher. I'm looking in the paper on such a day, and the opposite page was the theatrical page. And there was a streamer over an article that said, actors wanted. There was a small theater, and the theater group was called the American Negro Theater Group. I went in, and the gentleman, a wonderful man, said to me, I didn't think he was so wonderful then, said to me, what can I do for you? I said, I came as a response of that thing about actors. He said, oh, he said, you're an actor? I said, yes, of course. He said, okay. He said, here. He gave me a script, first time I had seen such a thing. And I started to read like this. So I want you to, that's about as far as I got. And he flashed into anger because it was really quite disrespectful now in retrospect. He came up on the stage and he snatched the book and he says, come on, get out of here. And he took me to the door. And as he tossed me out, he said something that changed my whole life. He said, stop wasting people's time. Why don't you go out and get yourself a job as a dishwasher or something? And as I walked to the corner of 7th Avenue and 135th Street, I wondered, how could he have known that dishwashing is what I did? And if in fact I am now to be forever pigeonholed as a dishwasher. By the time I reached the corner, I had resolved that I would, in order to fashion an escape hatch for myself, I would become an actor, only to prove to him that I was not just destined to be a dishwasher.
And that was an interview with Good Morning America host David Hartman from 1985.
Well, I got to tell you, folks, we, doing a show to just understand Sidney Poitier's life and history would take an hour show of its own. And of course, we can't do that here. But I honestly, if you, there's been a couple documentaries about him. There's been an awful lot written about him. He's led a fascinating and distinguished life. And DJ, what do we got to say about him in specific to this movie?
Alrighty, so Mr. Sidney Poitier, he was born and raised in the Bahamas, and as you heard part of in the interview here, he came to the U.S. At the age of 15. He began acting in the 50s. Now, by the time A Patch of Blue came out in 65, this was his 23rd film. Not his 5th or his 6th, but his 23rd. His film just before Patch of Blue, because he was busy in 65, was a film with Anne Bancroft and Telly Savalas called A Slender Thread. And his film after A Patch of Blue was called Duel at Diablo. And this was a film in 66 with James Garner and Dennis Weaver. So, you know, if Toppy hasn't seen it, those are a couple of reasons to catch it.
There you go.
Now, in the 5 years that would follow A Patch of Blue, so, you know, the mid 60s going into the 70s, Poitier would appear in 6 films, including the very well received and very infamous Guess Who's Coming to Dinner with Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn. One of my dad's favorite actresses, and one of my reasons for seeing that classic.
Wait a minute. Katharine Hepburn was his favorite?
Yes.
Or Spencer Tracy?
Katharine Hepburn.
Okay.
And then Poitier retired from acting more recently, of course, in 2002. Now, of course, one of the reasons we're discussing this film tonight is in honor and in memory of Mr. Poitier, because he passed earlier in this year at the age of 94. So he had a long life, and he held 55 acting credits to his career.
Which, if you know other actors, by the way, Poitier is considered like one of the last actors that was involved in the old Hollywood system. And if anybody knows, you know, most actors involved in that just churned the movies out, and had, like, you know, Betty Davis, a million well, Sidney Poitier was able to be a little bit choosier. And so after, you know, at the age of 94 and 55 acting credits, well, that's because he carefully chose his projects. And he had to, because of his involvement in activism and politics. And he had to very carefully choose what he would be in. And in fact, I think that kind of led to him sort of retiring from acting and going into directing. I think that may have been part of it. And of course, as a director, you would know, like, his most successful movie as the Gene Wilder, Richard Pryor movie. Wow, it's slipping my mind, DJ. What the hell was it called?
There was a couple of them. Was it Silver Streak?
The first one. The first one they did.
Oh, goodness. Oh, we've got a chat room poll. I can do a quick look-see here. See, so Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor.
Stir Crazy. That's what it was.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what it was. Well, Stir Crazy was crazy popular, and Poitier directed that. He directed many movies. Anyways, let's talk about Shelley Winners, who had a juicy role in A Patch of Blue. Oh, she did it so well. She was, we loved to hate her in this movie. Oh God. Well, she was born in, like you said, in St. Louis, and she began acting in the mid-40s. Her breakout role was in 1949 in The Great Gatsby. She did that with Alan Ladd and Betty Field, and she was a supporting character. And Winters won a Best Supporting Actress Oscar for her role as Miss Van Dan in George Stevens' film adaptation of The Diary of Anne Frank in 1959. By the way, she donated that award, that statuette, that Oscar, to the Anne Frank House in Amsterdam. In the 5 years after A Patch of Blue, Winters would star in 9 films, including Alfie with Michael Caine, The Three Sisters with Geraldine Page, and of course, her most iconic role as Belle, the swimmer heroine in the 1972 film, The Poseidon Adventure. Winter passed in 2006 at the age of 85. She had 162 acting credits.
Oh, goodness. You know, Toppy, you were saying that you just love to hate her in this role as Roseanne in Patch of Blue. Now, because Shelley Winters was such an activist, she sort of had a conflict, a crisis of faith, because she didn't really want to play the character of Roseanne, who was a capital B, but she did it well. So, of course, she won the award for this part. But,
I didn't know that.
Yes. And that, of course, this was the mama of the film, the Shelley Winters there is Roseanne, the tough as nail lady who ruled from her corner of the one room apartment, not even a one bedroom.
I'm not even sure what the hell that set was.
Bedroom implies there's a door.
That was a great set. And boy, this was these folks didn't have too much money. Let's put it that way.
I could imagine, just given the limited sets, that this could very easily be performed as a play. So,
yes. By the way, note when we go to Sidney Poitier's apartment, Gordon's apartment, very different. A lot of space. It's very clean. It's very orderly. Very different from what poor Selena has to endure at home in that filthy apartment that she lived for years with no education.
Honestly, as I watch this movie, because of course, as you watch any film, you can't just assume when the story takes place, especially if you're watching a classic like this. But I wasn't sure what time period this was supposed to be set in because of the living conditions of the family that's the main part of the story.
Interesting, yeah.
So until we actually get to see Gordon's apartment, Sidney Poitier's character.
Oh, and he says, Selena says, "Oh, it's so cool in here." He says he's got air conditioning.
And of course, his brother is an intern. He wants to be a doctor. So, they're both very career or motivated, oriented, because they always are wearing button-down shirts with ties when we see them throughout the film.
Yeah, so. Which is there was a faction, where that's still the way people dressed. Formally, that was still going. Let's talk about our other main character, DJ, Elizabeth Hartman.
All right.
And this is special because A Patch of Blue was her very first role.
Yeah. So following the mama, going to the daughter, the main character here, Elizabeth Hartman played Selena, the blind woman in the film.
Right. And Shelley Winters, her whole life, Selena thought her name was Selena because that's the way she heard it from her mother. Selena, do this. Selena, do that. And it wasn't until she met Gordon that she learned her name wasn't Selena. It was Selena.
Elizabeth Hartman, who played Selena, was born in the Buckeye State, Ohio.
Oh.
Now, she began acting in youth theater, which is what gave her the opportunity to be discovered. And A Patch of Blue was her first film role. In fact, there's a darling little short film out there that you can find on YouTube, which was probably put on the DVD release on the anniversary restoration, called A Cinderella Named Elizabeth. And it's the director's introduction to the career of this young woman. Now, she would star in 4 films over the next 5 years, including in 66 with Candice Bergen and Larry Hagman, of all people, The Group. And then in 66 also was a film with Geraldine Page and Rip Torn. You're a big boy now. Now, by the 70s, young Elizabeth Hartman was finding more work in television. Her final film role that was live action, so the last time she was in front of the camera, was a role in a film in 81 called Full Moon High. Now, there is a cult following on this topic because it's sort of a low-budget horror movie, and it stars the likes of Jim J. Bullock. Of course, everyone knows him from Too Close for Comfort and Hollywood Squares. Mr. Alan Arkin, who, of course, was in that In-Laws movie that we watched last year. Ed McMahon from The Tonight Show, and Happy Days, origin story, Pat Morita. So that was
what the hell was that movie all about?
Oh goodness! I mean, he took the money and run because Mr. Morita was also in a shady film that had Julie Andrews and I want to say Mary Tyler Moore.
I don't know.
I'm forgetting the name right now.
I don't know.
Thoroughly Modern Millie. Do not. Okay. I know he's
Okay.
gone now, and I have nothing but admiration for his career. But the man took the money and run and said, "No, this isn't racist. You can let these Asian people be dressed like this and addressed that way." But anyways, that's Elizabeth Hartman, young star who we lost far too young. She had depression and chose not to be with us anymore after the 80s there. So
yeah, a sad ending. But I'll tell you what, DJ, I'm considering this was her first movie. Wasn't she brilliant in A Patch of Blue?
Oh, she was terrific. She, was very spirited and she very much got into the role. Of course, the short film taught you that part of her character research was she went to a school for the blind. But,
yeah.
It was very convincing that she was living the life of this person.
Absolutely.
Who didn't know joy. She only knew servitude.
And one of the things, this movie did very well was show you how a blind person lived. There she was taking care of that crappy apartment her mother and old pa lived in. And she would iron. And there were little things that you would see throughout the whole movie of how she did these things instinctively. Nobody taught her. It's just how she learned on the go. And it really well showed how a blind woman in this destitute position that she was in with no education, might function.
Hmm. And speaking of how I wasn't sure what period this was set in until we got to see Gordon's apartment.
Mhm.
Part of that reality that set in also sort of infuriated me
Oh.
because once I learned that she wasn't living during the Great Depression,
Oh, okay.
and there were modern conveniences in this world, and the fact that this young woman's contribution to her family was stringing beads
Yeah.
when she would basically escape to the park because they didn't want her leaving home. They wanted her at their beck and call. So
Yeah.
when she realized that not everybody lives the way that she does, you realize that there's something wrong because her family is holding her back.
Yeah, she doesn't discover this at all. I mean, she has no idea except for the radio. She knows that on the radio, the voices she hears are very different from the voices in her real life. And she comments on that later. She tells Gordon, "Oh, you sound like you're on the radio." And it's because he's literate.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
he doesn't have somebody in his household who's browbeating him all day.
right. So goodness gracious. So many amazing things about pieces of this movie. I read so the the dramatic thunderstorm scene where she's at the tree
Mm-hmm.
and the thunderstorm comes around and she goes into hysterics.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some people think like, wow, that's way over the top. What's the big deal? What's their problem? It's a thunderstorm. But I read very recently a story written by the blind and deaf personality from why it's terrible getting old, DJ.
Chat room full.
No, the blind and deaf woman who was mute and she
Keller?
went wah wah. Oh yeah.
Helen Keller.
Helen Keller. Well, she wrote something about an experience in her life, which was she had this tree that she was very familiar with and she could climb it. She could climb way up that damn tree because she was so familiar with it. But she was in that tree one day when a thunderstorm came through and the rain and the just came over the tree. And because her whole experience was tactile, she could not get down from that tree. She didn't recognize the tree anymore. And so that scene in The Patch of Blue, when she's caught in that thunderstorm, I feel like her tactile experience was erased by the storm, and I can accept her hysterics. It makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very dramatic scene. And Sidney Poitier as Gordon swoops in and rescues her. It's so wonderful, and takes her to a shelter where she just shakes and shivers until she dries off a little bit. It's an amazing sequence.
And I also think that while what you said has merit because you're basing it from the experience of somebody who's walked in those shoes, somebody who's blind, Miss Helen Keller. I also feel that at that point in the film when she's in the park, she's experienced the other side of life where she's been to Gordon's apartment. She's seen how other people treat each other outside of her home. and she's spending this time in the park because the only way she can be helped home is by waiting for her drunkard grandfather to walk through. And it's her turning point. She realizes that she's much more helpless than she should be for a girl of her age. She's no longer a child, and I think it's also a part of a breakdown, which she does also have at home too, because nobody was going to show her to the park. Although,
Mm.
Gordon did teach her some survival skills, for lack of a better term. He taught her how to navigate the street, to find the crosswalk.
Yeah. And her first attempt failed, but she did a second attempt and she got there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh gee, there's so many good moments in this movie.
Let me help you pick one topic, because
Yeah, please.
this might be something that our chat room might pick up on. Now, if you haven't had a chance to catch A Patch of Blue, it's available a few places. Now, I caught it on HBO Max, which is HBO's new streaming offer, but you also have an option to rent it on YouTube, I believe.
That's how I watched it. Yeah.
And if you're lucky and you're like hubby and I, you troll the thrift stores, a lot of times you can find classic films, because who wants physical media these days? Well, the Library of Congress is knocking on my door because I got myself. But anyways, there is a very charming moment when Selena has been invited to Gordon's house, his apartment, because they've just gone grocery shopping and they need to drop off a few things. And she discovers the music box on the bookcase. And of course, there's a little bit of a story involved with that, because later on, Gordon and Selena have a conversation about the history of the music box and where it came. Did you want to reflect on that? Because I know I mentioned to you behind the scene, behind the curtain here, that I didn't pick up on a subtle thing about that music box until the second time I watched it. What did he tell her about it? It was his grandmother's, right?
It was his grandmother's, but it was given to her by a man that she loved, but ultimately was deferred from. It didn't work out, and it was because this man was from a different country or a different place. As Poitier suggested, they were two people of a different place, something like that he said.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it suggested that perhaps his mother and his father were racially different. I don't know, that's not a very good way to say it, but perhaps his mother was black and perhaps his father was white, or vice versa. I'm not sure.
Because it happens at a sort of an important part of the story where Gordon has not admitted to Selena that he is different. And Selena picks up on it because her mother sees them in the park, and she calls him the N-word, of course. But yeah. Selena does not let on to Gordon that she knows that he's different until later. So it's important, because as Gordon's telling Selena about the music box and his grandmother, he explains that the man who gave her the music box is not his grandfather. So it was kind of maybe the one who got away. But right. It just sort of foreshadows the fact that history is repeating itself, where people are people, and it doesn't matter what our differences are. People will find common ground no matter what your background is.
True. Just to straighten out what you just said, well, I won't go into that. It's very complicated.
Right.
But we'll go into the 1961 book, which was originally titled Be Ready with Bells and Drums, by Elizabeth Cotta. And the novel that inspired this movie, and that they culled from very, very heavily, is ends quite a bit differently, and I just want folks to know how the novel ends compared to the movie. So it all goes very much forth the way the movie goes, but towards the end, at the park, Selena listens to two women talk, and when they leave, Gordon arrives, and he sees her because she's just been beaten up by her mother, and Gordon takes her to his apartment once again, and his brother Paul insists that, well, you can't do this. You got to get rid of Selena. And Gordon and Selena tell each other they love each other, and they kiss. And Gordon informs her that he is arranging to send her to a special school, and Selena is like elated. She tells Gordon at that moment in the novel, she would have been horrified if Roseanne had forced her to sleep with black men. Now, that's the whole part of the plot. The horrifying thing about her mother is that her mother effing forced her daughter into prostitution. Okay. So she says that to Gordon, that she would have been horrified if Roseanne had forced her to sleep with a black man. And Gordon hears this and is like, whoa, upset. And he doesn't say anything. So they return to the park when Selena falls into some rose bushes. And of course, they've got thorns and prickers. And she's screaming like, ow, ow, ow. And Gordon rushes to help her. And someone in the park shouts, stop that. Get away from her. And there's a lot of other people in the park that join in and say, stop that. Get away from that. And in other words, black man, get away from that innocent white girl. And Gordon is driven away by this maddened crowd. And that's the first time in the novel that Selena realizes Gordon is black. And Selena, she's horrified at herself at that point, at the very end of this novel. And she knows that her time with Gordon is over because of what's happened. It's tragic. It's horrible. It's a horrible way to end this novel. But she vows to be better. And she eventually finds this girl named Pearl that she used to play with in her apartment building. And Pearl was a black girl. And she was the only girl that ever socialized with her and played with her. And her mother put the kibosh on that because she said, you ain't playing with that black girl. Stop that right now. And her one and only friendship with Pearl ended. And so the end of the novel is she vows to find Pearl and apologize to her. That's the end of the novel. Very different from how the movie ends.
And the part of that involves the scene in the park that you were just talking about. Now in the film, the version that's different, hubby watched it with me on the second time I saw it, and he remarked to me how they made it a point to make the people in the park notice how Shelley Winters' character, the mother Roseanne, treated her daughter, so that when they changed the ending from the book, and they decided it was the mother who was the horrible person, not Gordon.
Yeah. Well, there was one basic thing they had to figure out with the movie compared to the novel, which is in the novel, you don't know until the very end that Gordon is black. Well, they couldn't do the movie that way. It wasn't possible. You knew right away Gordon was black. So they had to totally come up with something different. And at the end of the movie version, there is a scene where Selena falls into some rose bushes just at the moment that her mother and old pa show up and say, "Oh, stop that man, you know." And in the movie, the park crowd just goes like, "Huh? Are you kidding me?" And they don't respond. In the novel, the crowd chases Gordon off because he's a black man. In the movie, the crowd goes, "What's the problem? Why are you yelling at this black man and woman?" And there's no response. So interesting. It's just an interesting difference.
And the modern day take on this, if they were ever to do a remake, not saying that they need to, is that the scene in the park takes place and nobody bats an eyelash because no one's gonna help them anyway. So, Toppy, we have reached almost the end of the hour, and we have. We've made our way out here to the lobby, so we're going to talk about films that are maybe similar, have something in common with A Patch of Blue. This is what we call our snack tray. It's what you've got left over when you've finished your favorite thing. So,
yeah,
we'll go first. This is sort of similar to A Patch of Blue in that it involves two people who have different backgrounds. So this is a film from 1990, and it stars one of our favorites that we started this little journey about 4 years ago.
Oh, Jane Fonda?
Miss Jane Fonda and Mr. Robert De Niro, who I think we recently learned was in HBO's first movie. But 1990, Iris and Stanley. And the story is a struggling widow falls in love with an illiterate short order cook whom she teaches to read and write in her kitchen each night. From 1990, Iris and Stanley.
Is that the movie that has the famous iconic line, "Teach me to read"?
I do believe so.
Oh, I don't know. I think maybe. I don't know. Teach me to read.
And what's the answer?
So my recommendation, if you liked A Patch of Blue, well, by golly, you're really going to love Lilies of the Field, which was the movie Sidney Poitier did just before A Patch of Blue. And it just happened because he was so good. He won an Academy Award for Best Actor. Lilies of the Field, historic in that way. I mean, for heaven's sakes, for a black actor to win an Academy Award, historic. But Lilies of the Field, take the movie alone. It was made in 1963. It's kind of a comedy. It's kind of a drama. It's really interesting. And it tells the story of an itinerant worker portrayed by Sidney Poitier, who encounters a group of really interesting East German nuns. And the nuns believe that Sidney Poitier has been sent to them by God to build them a new chapel. And what a story is weaved, and certainly well-deserved of an Academy Award. Lilies of the Field is what I recommend if you like A Patch of Blue.
Okay. Alrighty, sir. Well, if you would do me so kind to take a look over the balcony and let me know who joined us in the chat room tonight.
You know, we love our kids that come and join us. Ooh, oh, there's a new one that didn't even. Oh, Lamont Cranston. Look at him. He came in. You know what? That Lamont Cranston, he's a New York City person. Woo! Boy, how do you love that? Also, Aunt Tudor. And we've got Maren Gertz, and we've got our old pal, Tommy Hash Browns. Listen, folks, it just wouldn't be the same if you weren't here doing this shoe with us live. So thank you so much for showing up.
A round of applause for our audience.
Ah.
Okay, Choppy. So the Marionette Theater, it's a celebrated building, got lots of history, and a lot of things have been through these doors, including a magician. Could you reach there and grab that bag of coins for me?
Oh, I'm fondling that bag of coins right now.
Okay, so we're gonna find out what's coming up next.
Ew.
And I've got to find my sound effect.
No,
I don't know why this happened.
No, it's fine. And that down comes the capsule and the gumball machine right now.
Hey, open that up here. Oh, great, Toppy. Let us know what we're going to be watching for our next show. This is going to be on Friday, April 1st. So it's the first of the month. The next time we meet up at 9 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah. Oh, goodness, folks, it's a big thriller. Oh, you're going to love it. Oh, it's scary. It's thrilling. It's Eye of the Needle. 1981 British suspense spy thriller directed by Richard Marquardt and starring, love him, Donald Sutherland. And, she's so good in this, Kate Nelligan. This movie was written by Stanley Mann. It's based on the 1978 popular novel of the same name, Eye of the Needle, by Ken Follett. This was a huge deal back then, folks. It's about a German Nazi spy in the United Kingdom during World War II who discovers vital information about the upcoming D-Day invasion and his attempt to return to Germany. But he is stranded with a family on an isolated storm island off the coast of Scotland, and the intrigue and excitement is evident. Bully, Eye of the Needle, next time on Matinee Minutia.
Okay, and a little advanced notice, folks, I've done some searching, and you could watch this on my favorite service called Tubi, Tubi.
Oh, excellent. Catch it on Tubi, folks.
Yes, sir. So that'll be Friday, the 1st of April. All righty, sir. Well, if you would do me the honor, sir, in the ways of the old days of radio, say good night, Gracie.
Oh, good night, Gracie.
Thank you for listening to Matinee Minutia.
Our show streams live on the first and third Friday of the month.
Go to univazpods.net, click the tower for streaming audio. Enter Discord for our chat room.
You can find our show anywhere you listen to podcasts.
Find us on Twitter at Matinee Minutia.
Find our group on Facebook.
Or visit our webpage at matineeminutia.com.
Have an idea for a show? Or why not let us know how we're doing?
Email us at matineeminutia@gmail.com.
This has been an Ollybug production.
I have a voice.
I have a voice.
You have a voice. You have a voice.
We have a voice.
We have a voice.
Unique voices in podcasting.
univazpods.net. Let me taking this off the stream and we'll dance a little to a patch of blue. She whistles in part of this, and you can actually find the soundtrack.
Yeah. Actually, Sidney Poitier is whistling.
Oh, yeah. And we forgot to mention there is a Star Trek connection with tonight's film.
Oh, no! Wait a minute. Before you tell who it is, let me try to figure out. Jesus, who could it be?
No, it's nobody that appears in front of the camera.
Okay. Oh, my God.
You might have just heard some of their work.
Oh, God. I don't know.
Well, it's music related.
Oh, well, Jerry Gold, what the hell's his name?
Goldsmith.
Yeah.
Jerry Goldsmith very famously done the music for many a Star Trek program.
Okay, there you go. That's the connection.
Okay, so I'm going to stop recording.
Ah!